to our journey in Lean Six Sigma. Enterprises of all types are in business to provide value to their key stakeholders. Customers first, otherwise they won't be in business long, and then stockholders if they're a public company. Usually trying to drive what they do, stock price up. But stock price is actually a function of revenue growth and return on invested capital, as you can see in the chart above. One way to get stock prices up is to improve in all of those areas. But improving in all those areas is not easy because those are outputs. You can't just say, I want revenue growth. You have to go in, do the marketing, do the improvement in product to get revenue growth. So that's actually an output metric. And we need to find the key drivers to those outputs and improve those. And that's what Lean Six Sigma is about. Taking that big Y, some kind of business metric, let's call it revenue growth, and that's some kind of function of what you do in the process. Marketing, marketing spend, customer quality, customer reviews. And again, those are all output metrics. And so we want to convert a business metric into a process metric, and then convert that process metric into what's actually going on in the process, figuring out which ones are driving the process metric, and then fixing them. So y is equal to f of x, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. So y is usually measured in dollars. You can see it on the left hand of the chart there. Measured in dollars. That's converted from a business problem to a process problem. Y, some output from whatever process you're running, is your little y, and then we need to measure that equals, that's equal to some kind of benchmark, because we want to be able to tell what we want to work on. Then we have to find the x's, the root causes, the process input drivers. Y is equal to f of x, those x's, and then that's going to be equal to some kind of solution, some kind of putting those x's in order so that we can get improvement to our process Y. So we're converting a business problem to a process problem to a process solution, and ultimately what Lean Six Sigma does is they put controls on those inputs, those solutions that we've got to drive dollars. C, so we've converted a business problem to a business process problem to a process solution, and finally to a business solution, and that's what Lean Six Sigma is about. However, you can't work on everything. Everybody's got resource limitations. So we need to choose those things that are most important. And we use what's called the Pareto principle. Most people are familiar with that 80% of a problem is caused by 20% of the root causes. And that can be traced both forward and backward. And so that's what we want to do. We want to look at our business statements, find where the variability is, find where the opportunity is, and then decide that's what we want to work on. Now, it's important to remember as well, when you got a big business project that you want to do, you don't resource it with one person. And unfortunately, that's what happens with Six Sigma often, is a good project idea is given, and then let's give it to a black belt, and then it'll be solved. It's not the way it works. You have to resource the problem. That's why we work on big problems. They're big problems because we haven't had a solution to them forever. And so we want to get them done. One of the complaints about Six Sigma is that projects take too long. Well, it's usually because, again, looking at this formula, you don't staff it. And when you don't staff it, it's not going to get fixed. But if you do use Lean Six Sigma, you're not going to solve the problem over and over because you're going to identify the true root causes. So, for example, I've worked on many projects at companies that we've solved this problem 8 times. Well, actually, you never really solved the problem. You've thrown resources at it, you've thrown solutions at it, but you've never found the root cause. And now, with Lean Six Sigma, what it does is, let's go use data to find the true root cause, and then we'll fix that. We may have to take out all the bad solutions that didn't do anything along the way. But projects using Lean Six Sigma don't take longer if you staff them. If you don't staff them, then they'll take forever and you'll have complaints. But if you staff a project right, it'll get to the key solution. Now again, we've got to identify those key projects. And I mentioned that there's 2 different ways, top down, bottom up. Top-down is typically looking at financial statements, either of a division or the corporate-wide. You can start as high as you want on top-down, and you look for items on the balance sheet or on the expense sheet or on the sales sheet that have a lot of variation or room to grow, or odd values that you can't quite understand right away. Those are areas to look for. And from the bottom up, you look for customer complaints, you look for employees who might notice some things that are going wrong, defects being made, line outages, things like that. And you collect a whole series of potential project ideas, and then you try to put some kind of value at stake on each of them. Oftentimes we don't know that because we're looking at values. We don't have any data, don't have a lot of hard data, but we kind of estimate value at stake, and then we put them on what we call a benefit effort matrix. How long is it going to take to solve the problem? If something's been happening and you've been solving it every 6 years, that's a hard problem. Don't say that's easy. Don't say that's a short time. That's going to be a harder problem to solve. So you put some kind of estimate on benefits, estimate of effort. Again, Lean Six Sigma works to get a final root cause. The project's not going to go quicker just because you say Lean Six Sigma. It's not a magic word. You've actually still got to do the work. So estimate that. Put it on a chart like we're showing right here, and then you go after those projects that make the most sense based on the value that you've got. Good identification involves some analysis and estimates, and that's hard work. We call it fuzzy front end, but it has to go that way. It's not a magic word. You have to staff the projects. So often, folks want to have just 1 or 2 people working on a project. It's not the way it works. If it's that important to you, it's going to drive your stock value, resource it properly, and then Lean Six Sigma will get to the root cause. You won't solve the problem again unless something else changes, but you'll have the true root cause identified and the solution that works for your business to drive stockholder price, customer value, and happiness for employees if you use it right by identifying the right projects. So we'll talk about, once we've identified projects next week, and develop a project charter for those projects.